One thing I don't like about the history of the LDS Church, there's a lot of things that were lost, in my opinion, when Joseph Smith passed away. The death of a leader has always been one of the biggest reasons for division of groups throughout history. And there were valid reasons why people broke off and away from Brigham Young. And I think they were right in their own way to do that. Most of us follow the path where we think and feel we are better off. Until more recently, one of the truths that was almost lost is the fact that Joseph Smith was giving black people the priesthood, which was one big shocker when I first found that out. Because even though I served an LDS mission in South Africa, I was teaching the same lie that they had taught me and everyone else I knew of, that for the first time in the history of the entire world, including the history of the LDS Church, the first time the black people were ever given the priesthood wasn't until 1978, until after Spencer W. Kimball had the revelation that it was time to give black people the priesthood for the very first time in all history. It obviously wasn't the most common LDS focus for teaching the history of King Solomon, who had 700 wives and 300 concubines, and a lot of those women were foreign women of royalty from around the globe. And one of those wives that he really fell in love with was Queen of Sheba, who Persians consider the daughter of a Chinese king and a Puri. King Solomon and Queen of Sheba had a son named Menelik, who ended up being the emperor of Ethiopia, who evidently was given the priesthood blessings from his father, King Solomon, son of David. The Solomonic dynasty in Ethiopia ruled for about 3,000 years, until 1974, when Haile Selassie was removed from their throne due to the devastating famine, from which the Rastafarian movement was born, and they view him as the returned Messiah. And more recently, the LDS Church found about 7 priesthood ordinance records in their own archives showing Joseph Smith giving blacks the priesthood back in the very beginnings of the church before he was martyred June 27, 1844. One of the reasons the knowledge of Joseph Smith giving black men the priesthood wasn't ever completely really lost is because of the family members of the black men Joseph Smith gave the priesthood authority to. The family members never forgot. Giving blacks priesthood was likely one of the reasons he was killed. He was also running for President of the United States, and as part of his campaign, he planned to free the black slaves. He would have freed them long before they were freed. It took several more presidents, James Polk, Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, and finally Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, and the second 13th Amendment was passed to abolish slavery, even though there were several laws being passed that continued to allow it. In fact, one of Joseph Smith's best friends, who was black, who also lived with him, who had given the priesthood to, is the one who dressed him in his temple clothes and buried him. Another fact is the black families of former priesthood holders had always remembered the truth and wondered why the church was teaching a lie all those years and why they refused to recognize their previous black LDS priesthood family history for about 150 years until quite recently. There was a lot of chaos after Joseph Smith died. Maybe they didn't know they were lying, so it's not like it was an intentional lie, but it definitely wasn't the truth. This kind of reminded me of Yoda, along with the rest of the Jedi Order in the Star Wars movie, how they felt when they realized there was a Sith lineage that had been actively growing and operating right under their noses all along without them knowing about it. And why couldn't they sense that, you know? Like, the dark side has clouded everything. It kind of made me feel like that when I first found this out. There's actually an all-black led LDS group ldsgenesisgroup.org is their website. 100% black led. They sing like black people sing and stand up and clap and move and express themselves the way every black community has the right to, without the old English culture being forced upon them. Another thing that Spencer W. Kimball said is, bring your culture with you when you join the church. Why did they force the old English culture on everyone then? Like the way they sing, why has that been crammed down everybody's throats all along then, if that's what we're supposed to do? Some of us have diversely different backgrounds and have within us a desire to sing a different way. We want to express our passion. We feel confined or restricted with the Old English style. My father was one of those people and would express himself while singing. With every song he sang, he was always one of the most expressive and greatest singers. He didn't care what the quiet people thought of him. He was full of passion and expressed it. He could have been an opera singer. And he told me privately that he didn't believe that we should be limited to singing in the ultra-conservative style. I know he was talking about the restrictive Old English church or classic Protestant style. It's too bland, boring, putting everybody to sleep. He said, I've got to give credit to other black gospel choirs and other black-led groups, such as the Baptists, who have kept their black culture, who know how to sing with their soul. I learned how to do that in South Africa. I really do love the way black people sing. They have such a beautiful harmonizing gift. When I discovered how to sing like that, I would just do it all the time. I learned how to speak their language, which not many whites learn how to speak an African tribal language, especially with the clicks like the Xhosa language has. It's not the easiest language to learn, but it's a lot of fun. And as I learned as much as I could about the spirituality of the black tribal culture, I even learned some things about their witch doctors, what their process was. There's various levels of spirituality. Even the most spiritually gifted person I know from Taiwan, she says the blood sacrifices and things of that nature are lower level practices.